What if you could completely tune out during your dives? What if you could just flip a switch, turn it off, and the next thing you know, you're at the bottom plate and you just completed your dive without even thinking about it? What if early turns became a thing of the past? And what if you could eliminate all the doubt and keep the fear in check? This might seem like hippy-dippy bull, but it works. This is going to be a deep dive into visualizations, and if you pay attention and you start incorporating this into your own training, the dives will become the easiest part of the training, and getting ready for the dive will actually become the hardest part. Hello everyone, my name's Tori. I'm a professional freediver, deepest human in the Western Hemisphere, for now, and I'd like to tell you exactly how to walk into your dives feeling bulletproof. To be clear, you're not visualizing just to feel good. You're programming a second you that doesn't panic, forget, or mess up. Yes, I developed this method as a means of controlling myself under the influence of narcosis, and because I was able to control somebody that shows up even when I'm not there anymore, I know this will work for anybody. The brain has a hard time differentiating between the mental drilling you're doing and the physical work you're doing in the water. Based on this principle alone, you can feel like you've done the dive 20 times before you even show up in the water. Not only did this help me to control other Tori, the guy that shows up under the effects of narcosis, but it massively deteriorated any fear and doubt I may have had leading into a dive. It's for this reason I started to teach this to other people, and it worked to great effect. So pay attention, stay tuned. I'm going to put chapter markers below. That way you can skip ahead to any portion that's more relevant to you. We're going to go over the do's and don'ts, how to structure your visualizations, the best windows in which to do your visualizations before the dive, why they work so well, and at the end, I'm going to show you how to program your dive into the application that I've linked below. Yes, the application's free. You can get away with using the free version. I've really broken this down into a science so that it can be the most effective use of your time. Programming your dive can be the most tedious part of implementing your visualizations, so I'm going to leave that till the end. I've put a cheat sheet below. You can click on the link and download it, and it might make it easier to follow along. Again, there are chapter markers below if you want to skip ahead. In the meantime, let's go over some of the do's and don'ts and hard, fast rules that, in my opinion, are more important than knowing how to program your dive. So the minimum commitment rule is super simple, but it's also the most important. You need to do 15 to 20 of these in a row, and if you're not going to follow through with that, it's not going to be effective. So in the app, you can set how many sets you're going to do in a row. That way it will restart and restart and restart. You need to do 15 to 20 sets in a row without stopping from start to finish. The reason for this is the first 3 to 5 of these, your mind's going to be wandering and thinking about other stuff. That's totally normal. For me personally, it takes about 3 to get into the zone. Eventually, you'll start anticipating the things the app is about to tell you, and that's how you know it's starting to get ingrained. There are definitely optimal times to practice this throughout the day. This is not to say that you shouldn't do these whenever the hell you can. You absolutely should, and they'll still be effective, as long as you're following the minimum commitment rule that I just spoke about. I've found the most beneficial times to be before your dive in the morning if you wake up early, or do it between 2 and 5 o'clock the day before your actual dive. Do your homework early, and you'll walk into your dive feeling dialed in and bulletproof the next day. Ideally, it should just be after lunch and before dinner, as long as it falls in between that time slot. This exercise has a boring kind of excitement that starts to build throughout, and it's not uncommon for somebody to start working up a sweat. That's why I don't prefer to do this at night, because if you have a 10 o'clock bedtime, it might turn into an 11 o'clock bedtime because it's going to fire you up a little bit. There are things the app is going to tell you to do that you're going to program in, and then there are other things that you're going to anticipate and do alongside that. For example, your breath holds, or putting on your nose clip and taking off your nose clip, holding your nose if you're not using a nose clip. These are things that don't necessarily need to be programmed into the app, but they're extremely important to execute. A common mistake I see people make when I don't mention it is that people will try to hold their breath for this entire exercise. Don't hold your breath, at least not for the entire dive. You should only be holding your breath for the beginning, before the dive starts, before your mouth fill, if you're doing mouth fill, and at the end segment of the descent. More on that in a second. This is a common mistake I see a lot of people make when I don't mention it for this exercise. This is not meant to wear you out physically, it's meant to wear you out mentally. If we're talking percentage points, this is 70 75% mental workout and 25% physical, which means you still need to physically mimic very important segments of the dive. You should not be laying down with your eyes closed and just going through this. You need to mimic important segments of the dive. Beginning, mouth fill, free fall, bottom turn, ascent, last 30 or last 20 and last 10 meters of the dive. And then your recovery breaths, everything surface protocol. You absolutely should be wearing a nose clip. And if you're not a nose clip diver and you're wearing a mask, you should be holding your nose for portions of this exercise. Don't forget, the more physical movements we're willing to do during this exercise, the more our brain is going to think we're actually doing the dive. Now getting back to the breath holding sequences. You shouldn't be holding your breath for the entire exercise. You need to hold your breath before the dive starts, take your last breath as if you are about to go underwater, anticipate it with the beginning of the dive, and let it out once the dive starts. The next breath hold is going to be right before the mouth fill. Anticipate your mouth fill with another breath hold. If you're diving shallower than 50 meters, hold this breath hold until the end and equalize until the bottom turn. If you're not doing mouth fill, just take your last breath and equalize to the bottom turn right here. If you're diving deeper than 50 meters, hold your breath at the beginning and let it out once the dive starts. Through the mouth fill and then let it go. And then about 15 to 20 meters before your bottom turn, take another last breath and equalize to the bottom. When you take that last breath hold, equalize until your bottom turn with the ideal amount of air in your mouth that you want to have. You kind of want to walk that fine line between a realistic amount of air that you have left in your mouth and an ideal amount of air that you have left in your mouth. This is Mind Trickery 101. That will cover all three segments of which you need to hold your breath during this exercise. Now we need to talk about the settings. You need to go into the settings, select whatever voice you want talking to you. That's personal to you. That's 1. 2, go down to the beeper. Change the beeper. If you don't change this, it's going to be extremely annoying. Right before it tells you to do something, it's going to beep 3 times. Turn that off.
20 seconds.
If you hear that beeping during your visualization, go into the settings, turn it off. It's extremely annoying. Don't get yourself used to that. It's just annoying. Get rid of it. Now, programming your dives. Make sure you program your visualization 3 to 5 meters deeper than you intend to do on the actual dive. This way, it's mentally harder for you on the visualization, making it much easier for you on the actual dive. Do not forget to program in your 15 to 20 sets. This is absolutely critical, and this is not going to work unless you do this. Once you program your dive, you can set it, you can forget it, and if you need to dive deeper or shallower, you only need to change 2 variables, right before the bottom turn and right after the bottom turn. Once it's set, those are the only 2 variables you need to change, before the bottom turn and after the bottom turn, and there you have a deeper dive or a more shallow dive. I made a cheat sheet. You can download it and follow along, or you can click on the link. It'll take you to a Canva page and you can follow it along there. It's a quick reference sheet. It'll make everything I'm talking about much easier because, yes, it's a little complex and I broke this down into a very legit science. We can't fully get into this unless I tell you how to calculate your ratio. For those that know their exact dive times, this is going to be a lot easier for you to plug and play into your visualization. However, it's still important that you understand how to calculate your dive ratio, because if you only know how long it took you to get to 40 meters, but you want to predict how long it's going to take you to get to 50 meters, you can calculate your ratio and plug it in. It's very simple to calculate your ratio. Just take the depth and divide it by the time it took you to get there. If you went to 20 meters, it took you 25 seconds to get there, divide 20 by 25. That'll give you your ratio. If that same person wants to know how long it's going to take to get to 30 meters based on that ratio, take 30, divide it by that ratio, and that's going to give you an approximation of how long it's going to take to get to 30 meters. Don't forget, these are timed visualizations, so the more accurate this can reflect what we're doing in the water, the more it's going to trick our brain into thinking we've already done this before. Most beginners that don't know their dive time, let's face it, they're not diving a meter per second. That's a very optimal speed. That's why we're going to assume 1 meter per second plus add a few seconds for each 10 meter segment of the dive. For example, if you want to calculate a 10 meter dive, you're going to do 10 plus 1 or 2 seconds. If you're going to calculate a 20 meter dive, you're going to do 20 seconds plus 2 or 3 seconds. 30 meters plus 3 or 4, 40 meters plus 4 or 5. Can you see the pattern? All of this information is on the cheat sheet. Don't forget to download it below. If you are a beginner that actually dives a meter per second, then just go ahead and put 20 for 20, 30 for 30, 40 for 40. That's up to you. It's just been in my experience, most new freedivers are not a meter per second. They tend to be a lot slower. The more real this is, the more it's gonna work. Don't be one of those divers that only visualize the descent. A lot of new and even advanced freedivers only like to focus on the descent portion of the dive. This exercise will not be effective if you only intend to simulate half your dive. Can you realistically do any of your dives without doing the ascent? No. This mind trickery will only go as far as you're willing to take it. What you're looking at on screen is a 121 meter visualization. I programmed this 5 meters deeper than the 116 meter dive I planned on doing. Follow me along and I'm going to explain what you should also put into your visualization and what's specific to me and should also be very specific to you. The sections bracketed in yellow are super important. Make sure you program these in. They cover a lot of the things I already just talked about, and you can make them specific to you. Keeping in mind you need to calculate your ratios appropriately. The areas in pink are going to be very specific to you, and they're very specific to me. The double top off that I do going into free fall, the EQ 45, 60, 75, and 80 that I do, very specific to me, probably not to you. Again, everything bracketed in yellow is super important. Make sure you write it down. You can write whatever you want, but just make sure you're covering those segments on your visualization. Everything else is extra and very specific to you. And once again, make sure you calculate your ratios appropriately. Don't forget, I put a cheat sheet below. You can download it. Might make it easier to program your visualization. You can also click on the link and it'll take you to a Canva page and you can follow it along there. Well, thanks for taking a look at the video, everyone. This is an exercise that I hold true to my heart. It's helped me a lot, and I hope it can also help you. It took a lot of effort putting this together in a way that you can digest it. This has always been something hard that I've had to teach in person, and I'm hoping this video itself can teach it to you. It helped me manage my narcosis quite a bit. If you're interested in my narcosis, you can click on the video over here. That was one of the main things that this exercise helped remedy. And just like the other people that I've taught this to, it can minimize the amount of fear and doubt that you'll have going into a dive if you just follow the guidelines that I put down. There's also a cheat sheet guide below that covers everything that I've talked about in this video, and it'll help you program your dive. In the meantime, I'm going to have a walkthrough of me doing an entire visualization and me talking through it. But this is me saying goodbye until the next video. So like and subscribe if you learned something, and enjoy the full visualization walkthrough. Thanks for having me. See you next time. Alright, I'm going to walk you through the entire demonstration of my visualization exercise. I'm going to set the rest time for 20 seconds. Here we go. Gives me enough time to put on my nose clip. And that last 15 seconds of rest is where I'll start packing 20 times. I take this last breath of air to coincide with the very beginning of the dive. And I'm not going to do the physical motion of roll over.
Roll over.
But I am going to do the physical motion of the initial descent.
Initial descent.
I'm going to go through the physical motions of the beginning of this dive all the way through the mouthfeel sequence. I'm going to anticipate my mouthfeel with a breath hold and charge my mouthfeel.
Mouthfeel 20.
And now I'm going to top off.
Top.
I'm going to top off one more time, and that's going to signal me into free fall.
Top off.
I'm going to throw off the nose clip to let my nose rest for now. So in this moment, I am in free fall, and I'm not doing anything except visualizing the free fall.
EQ 45.
I'm going to hit my 45 EQ, and I'm going to start one small undulation between 45 and 60 meters. This is so that I can keep my speed up a little bit on the free fall.
EQ 60.
I hit another frontal EQ at 60 meters. That's very specific to me, and I continue to do one small undulation between 60 and 75. I'm going to get my nose clip ready, and I'm going to take one last breath of air.
EQ 75.
Hit my frenzel at 75. This is very specific to me.
EQ 80.
Frenzel at 80. Also very specific to me. And I'm holding my breath now and equalizing all the way until the bottom turn. So I know I instructed you in the video to do this 15 to 20 meters before the bottom turn. And that's actually what I was doing when I first ever started doing these visualizations. I was only diving about 100 meters, so I was holding my breath from 80 meters. And I would hold it to 100 meters, but as I started to get better and started progressing in depth, I continued to hold my breath from 80 meters, and at this point, I was now doing visualizations of 121 meters for a 116 meter dive.
Bottom turn.
I just did the bottom turn. As you can see, I grabbed the tag, taking my time with the ascent. I'm not going too fast or too slow. At this moment, I was practicing a different kind of bottom turn where I keep my arms limp at the bottom and just move my waist, and then I go into the motions very slowly. Most of the time I would do this all the way until 80 meters on the ascent, but for the purpose of this video, I had just finished doing 20 of them, so I wanted to create the video and I didn't want to wear myself out anymore. This 80 meter and 60 meter marker coming up is simply narcosis alarms for myself.
80 meters.
Alarms that I set to try to wake myself up out of it if it gets too bad, and in my case it's always bad. I remember the first time I did this, and I think the ascent was going to take a little over a minute and a half, and I remember thinking, this is taking forever. And it was the first time I actually realized how much narcosis I was dealing with.
60 meters.
The truth is, I'm under so much narcosis that I'm not even there anymore on the actual dive. So this part's really important for me to stay in tune and still acknowledge how long it's taking me to get to the surface, because when I actually dive, there's going to be so much narcosis that this segment is going to feel like it took 3 or 4 seconds. I know it's crazy, but this is the main reason I do this exercise, so I can control myself on the ascent.
30 meter.
All right, as I get to 30 meters, I start getting ready for my last part of the ascent.
Grouper call 20 meters.
I'll put the nose clip back on, I'll start going through the motions because this is a very important segment of the dive.
10 meters.
And as you'll see, after 10 meters, I'll do an arm stroke, and then I'll glide on the line all the way up.
Recovery breath.
And I'll take my surface protocol super serious.
Nose clip.
I'm going to take off that nose clip.
Sign.
I'm going to give that sign.
Saying okay.
I'm okay. I'm going to say I'm okay, damn it.
You fucking did it. 20 seconds.
And as you can see, it started over so that I don't get distracted and I can begin another set.